admit to sleeping with another man, but claim that you have no doubt Mr. Hudson is your child's biological father. The defendant led you to believe you were her son, Ja'Cory's biological father, then dropped a bomb and admitted she slept with someone else.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're in court to prove you are not her son's father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Sometimes the truth isn't just hidden. It's tangled between hearts, lies, and desperate hopes. On a quiet courtroom floor, 3 lives collide under one question that could shatter them all. Which man from the dating app is the father? In the sterile calm of a courtroom where stories unravel under fluorescent lights, one woman stands between 2 men, each bound to her past by intimacy, confusion, and a single child. The case isn't about love anymore. It's about truth, accountability, and the rippling consequences of choices made in moments of loneliness and longing. At the center of this emotional storm is Miss Bridges, a young woman who once believed she could balance affection and freedom, only to find herself facing the weight of a child's identity. She's exhausted, not just from the questions around her son's paternity, but from the moral burden of uncertainty that follows her every step. Her child, little Ja'Cory, is innocent in all of this, a quiet soul caught between 2 men who both want to believe they belong to him. One of them is Mr. Hudson, a man who gave everything he had to a love he thought was real. For years, he lived in the illusion of stability, building a home, signing a birth certificate, and cutting the umbilical cord of a child he proudly believed was his own. His devotion was pure, unquestioning, and rooted in the belief that love was enough to make him a father. But behind that love lay a secret that would soon tear through his world like a blade. When he discovered that Miss Bridges had been with another man, his entire sense of identity crumbled. The betrayal wasn't just romantic, it was existential. How do you question the very bond you've built your life around? How do you look into a child's eyes, a child you've held, raised, and celebrated, and ask if they are truly yours? Hudson's heartbreak is quiet but visible. His voice trembles not from anger but from confusion. He recounts the doctor visits, the late nights, the tiny victories of fatherhood that once filled his heart with pride. He was there when Ja'Cory took his first breath, his first steps, his first cry. To him, fatherhood wasn't biology, it was a series of acts of love. But now, every memory he cherishes is shadowed by a single haunting thought. What if it was all built on a lie? Across from him sits Mr. Davis, the second man, calm on the surface but holding years of hidden uncertainty. His story begins with casual encounters, moments of connection that were never meant to carry the weight of consequence. When he learned through a Facebook post that Miss Bridges had a child who looked eerily like a member of his own family, something inside him shifted. He felt a strange combination of fear, hope, and guilt. Could this boy be his? Could a few moments of passion have created a life? For Davis, fatherhood was never part of the plan. He wasn't there at the birth. He didn't sign papers or buy gifts. But when confronted with the possibility, his heart stirred. Beneath the logical doubts and the awkward timing, a quiet yearning emerged, the yearning of a man who, despite his mistakes, wanted to believe he could have someone to call his son. Miss Bridges' voice wavers as she speaks. She admits to her mistakes, her confusion, her moments of weakness. She insists that she knows who the father is, but every word she utters carries hesitation. The court sees it. The audience feels it. She wants to be right, not just for herself, but for the child who deserves stability. Yet the truth refuses to bend to her desires. As she speaks, the past unfolds like a faded photograph, memories of relationships that began with laughter and ended with resentment. She and Hudson once lived together, sharing bills, meals, and dreams. But trust, fragile as glass, shattered under the weight of suspicion. Jealousy, distance, and old flames crept in until betrayal became inevitable. When she strayed, it wasn't from hate but from emotional exhaustion, a need for attention, validation, and escape. She met Davis in the brief chaos of that emotional void. It wasn't love, it was distraction. They met through social media, connected through messages, and crossed lines neither could undo. To her, it was supposed to be temporary, a secret buried beneath time. But when her pregnancy came, so did a question she couldn't answer. Whose child was it? As she holds her son in her arms, that question has become her punishment. Every time she looks at him, she sees fragments of both men, Hudson's eyes, Davis's smile, her own confusion mirrored in the child's innocent face. In court, the tension thickens. Hudson listens as she explains, his hands folded tightly in his lap. His jaw clenches not from rage, but from the unbearable ache of remembering how much he loved her. He hears her admit to sleeping with someone else and feels the weight of those words crush the years they shared. Yet beneath the heartbreak, he still feels something deeper, compassion. Because even now, he can't erase the image of her as the woman he once promised to protect. When the judge asks Hudson how he felt when he learned of her betrayal, his answer is simple but raw. He says it felt like watching his world collapse in silence. No screaming, no violence, just the quiet breaking of something sacred. But he stayed. He stayed because walking away from a child he loved felt more unbearable than living with doubt. Meanwhile, Davis recounts his side. He describes how he found out through social media, the shock of seeing a child who looked like him, the unease that turned into obsession, the eventual message exchange where Miss Bridges asked if he would take a DNA test. His story isn't one of deception but of delayed realization. He wasn't sure if he wanted to know, but he agreed. Because somewhere in his heart, he felt the pull of possibility, the idea that maybe, just maybe, he was meant to be a father after all. Their testimonies reveal two different forms of love. Hudson's love is steady, grounded in experience and sacrifice. Davis's is distant but hopeful, built on the fragile hope of what could be. And between them stands Bridges, holding the emotional wreckage of both, her guilt woven into every tear she sheds. But the court isn't built on emotion, it's built on evidence. The conversation shifts from feelings to facts, timelines, dates, conception windows. The judge dissects every claim with precision, comparing the months, the weeks, the memories. The truth, however, doesn't emerge through numbers. It emerges through the cracks in their voices, the pauses, the sighs, the moments of hesitation when love collides with accountability. Hudson insists the dates don't add up. Bridges defends herself, explaining premature birth, complications, stress. Davis sits quietly, holding onto fragments of text messages that could change everything. Every second drips with anticipation, and the courtroom becomes more than a place of judgment. It becomes a mirror reflecting human imperfection. As they argue, an older woman stands in the background, Miss Dallaragas, Bridges's aunt. She has been caring for Jack Corey for years, filling the void left by the uncertainty of his parentage. Her voice cuts through the tension, calm but stern. She tells the court she's tired of the chaos, tired of watching a child grow up without stability. Her words carry the wisdom of someone who's seen love turn toxic and responsibility become an afterthought. She demands that Bridges get help, not just financial help, but emotional guidance. Because in her eyes, this isn't just a paternity case, it's a cry for accountability. The aunt's presence adds weight to the story. She's not interested in blame, she's interested in the child's future. She doesn't care who the biological father is as much as she cares who will be the father, the one who shows up, the one who stays when the cameras are gone and the drama fades. By the time the testimonies end, the courtroom feels heavy with exhaustion. Everyone has spoken, but no one feels understood. The judge looks at the two men, both of whom claim to want to be fathers, yet neither of whom truly knows if they are. Both speak of love, but both carry doubt. It's a tragic symmetry, two hearts, one truth, and a child whose fate hangs in the balance. Then comes the moment everyone fears, the DNA results. The courtroom falls silent. The papers rustle softly and the air seems to stop moving. The judge's voice, calm but grave, reads the results one line at a time. Hudson first. The words hit like a hammer. You are not the father. Hudson exhales sharply. His eyes glisten, but he doesn't speak. The sound that follows is silence, a silence louder than grief. He had built his life on a belief that's just been erased in a sentence. All the birthdays, the Christmas gifts, the hugs, all suddenly suspended in uncertainty. Before anyone can process it, the judge reads again, Davis, you are not the father. Shock ripples through the room. Two men, two possible paths, both shattered. And in that instant, every story collapses. Bridges covers her face in disbelief. Davis stares blankly, struggling to process the twist. Hudson sinks into quiet devastation. The child they all fought for belongs to neither of them. The courtroom air feels thinner now, as if every ounce of oxygen has been replaced by disbelief. What began as a confrontation of truth has turned into a void of uncertainty. Neither man is the father. The silence that follows is more haunting than any argument that came before. Even the judge pauses, not out of confusion, but out of empathy. Everyone in the room knows that, for a brief moment, 3 adults and 1 child have lost the fragile sense of belonging they were clinging to. Mr. Hudson sits motionless, his hands folded tightly together. The pain on his face isn't loud, it's quiet, deep, and internal, the kind of hurt that doesn't need tears to be seen. He looks down, avoiding Miss Bridges' eyes, as if even meeting her gaze might break him further. He once called himself Dad. He once believed love was enough to bridge any betrayal. But now, even that belief feels stolen. His memories, from cutting the umbilical cord to signing the birth certificate, suddenly seem like scenes from someone else's life. He whispers, hurt, betrayed. 2 words that carry the weight of everything he's lost. Mr. Davis, sitting a few feet away, feels something different, not betrayal, but hollow confusion. For him, there had been a flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, this story would end with purpose. He'd imagined what it might mean to be a father, to have someone to care for, to protect, to guide. But now that flicker has been snuffed out by the undeniable precision of DNA. He tells the court quietly that he's glad to know. But even as he says it, his voice cracks. He's not glad. He's heartbroken for a possibility that no longer exists. And then there's Miss Bridges, the woman at the center of it all. Her tears fall freely now, streaking down her cheeks, blurring her vision, drowning her defenses. The shock on her face isn't just for the results, it's for the truth she's been forced to confront. She doesn't know who the father of her child is. Every answer she gave, every insistence of certainty, has just turned to dust in her hands. What's left is guilt, raw, consuming guilt. The kind that makes breathing feel like a punishment. The judge looks at her with compassion and disappointment. The courtroom may be built for facts, but today it's drowning in emotion. And at the heart of it all, an innocent child remains fatherless, not by choice, but by circumstance. A little boy who didn't ask for any of this is now the symbol of everyone's mistakes. The aunt, Miss Dallaragas, breaks the silence. Her voice trembles, but her words are steady. She says what no one else can. This child needs stability, he needs guidance, and my niece needs help. Her tone carries no malice, just truth. She's seen the damage this confusion has caused. She's been the one holding Jacori through fevers, calming him during nights of asthma attacks, filling the empty spaces left by adults too lost in their own chaos. For her, this isn't about DNA. It's about responsibility, something that seems to have slipped through everyone's hands. Her plea hits harder than the test results, because she's right. In a world obsessed with biological truth, the emotional truth is often ignored. The truth that children remember love more than they remember names. The truth that parenthood isn't proven by a piece of paper, it's proven by presence. The judge, visibly moved, reminds them all of something deeper. Biology may define lineage, but it doesn't define loyalty. And yet, in this case, both have failed. Two men willing to step up, one woman who believed she knew the truth, and a child left wondering where he belongs. The episode could have ended there, but life rarely stops where we expect. Because while one family's truth has just shattered, another is about to unfold, just as complicated, just as painful. The next case begins with a man named Mr. Streety, young, composed, but visibly weary. His story, though separate, mirrors the same theme of doubt, deception, and the fragile hope of fatherhood. He has come to court not to claim a child, but to deny one. He wants his name removed from a birth certificate. He's asking for $108, the cost to legally separate himself from the responsibility of a boy he doesn't believe is his. Across from him sits Miss Johnson, calm but seething, her eyes sharp with anger and pain. She insists she never forced him to sign the birth certificate, that every choice he made willingly. To her, his current doubt isn't about truth, it's about guilt, fear, and immaturity. She's furious, but beneath that fury lies heartbreak. Because whatever love they once had, it's buried beneath accusation. Their relationship began like many others, two people reconnecting after years apart, trying to build something steady. But life doesn't wait for stability. When they met again, Miss Johnson was already pregnant from a previous relationship. And yet, Mr. Streety chose to stay. He chose to be a father figure, to step into a role that wasn't his by blood but was his by choice. He thought he was doing the right thing. He thought that love could rewrite biology. When their relationship deepened, he signed not one but 2 birth certificates for children who weren't biologically his. He said he did it to show commitment, to prove he could be the man who stayed when others left. But as time went on, doubt began to creep in like a slow, invisible poison. Messages, missed calls, unexplained absences, all began to paint a picture he couldn't ignore. Then came to Andre, their youngest child, the one in question. When he was born, Streety held him proudly, unaware that months later he'd be questioning everything. The cracks in their relationship widened when he suspected her of seeing someone else. He claims he saw her at gas stations, in cars, with another man. She denies it, saying the timelines don't match, that by the time he saw her with anyone else, she was already pregnant. But trust, once broken, rarely heals. Every denial sounds like a lie. Every explanation feels rehearsed. Their arguments turned into patterns, accusations met with counter-accusations, words twisted into weapons. He moved out. She carried on. But doubt followed them both like a shadow. When Streety returned months later, he learned about her brief affair with a man she met while working at a haunted house. A man she now claims was irrelevant, a fleeting mistake. But to Streety, that was enough to unravel everything. He remembers the moment vividly, the exact day she told him she'd been with someone else. The image of her confessing, the room spinning with betrayal, and the sinking realization that the child he'd claimed might not be his. For him, it wasn't just about fidelity, it was about identity. He had already been dad for 13 months. He had already held this boy, fed him, changed him, loved him. Now all of that felt uncertain. Every diaper, every kiss, every sleepless night, all possibly belonging to someone else's story. In the courtroom, he explains his decision calmly. He doesn't yell, doesn't curse. He says he just wants the truth. He's not running away from responsibility, he's running toward clarity. Because carrying love built on doubt is its own kind of prison. Miss Johnson listens, her lips pressed tight. She argues that he knew exactly what he was signing up for, that from the very beginning he was aware she was already pregnant when they reunited, that his decision to sign the birth certificate was made out of love, not deception. Her pain is visible, but so is her pride. She says, "I never forced him." And for the first time, her voice cracks because beneath her words lies the ache of a woman who's been abandoned too many times. Streety explains his insecurity, how seeing her with another man haunted him, how he questioned everything, even things he once believed in, how he looked at his son and saw differences that fed his doubt, skin tone, features, expressions. He knows it's irrational, genetics are unpredictable, but when trust is broken, even coincidence looks like evidence. Miss Johnson fights back, explaining timelines and logic. She insists the affair happened months after conception, that when Streety saw her with someone else, she was already carrying his child. Her words tumble out fast, emotional but grounded. She's not just defending herself, she's defending her son's right to legitimacy. The tension in the courtroom feels different from the previous case. It's not chaos, it's fatigue. Both of them are tired. Tired of explaining, tired of fighting, tired of carrying guilt. The judge listens patiently, weaving through their overlapping stories, searching for clarity in the fog of blame. Streety presents his reasoning like a soldier, structured, measured, almost rehearsed. He admits he once believed love could heal anything, that he wanted to build a family not just for himself but for the children she already had. But when accusations replaced affection, he lost sight of what was real. He says, "I take responsibility seriously." He means it. But responsibility without trust is like standing on a bridge without foundation. Miss Johnson, through tears, explains how deeply his doubts have wounded her. She says she can't understand how a man who once proposed to her, who once promised a future, can now question the child they created together. Her voice breaks as she describes how he slowly weeded his way out, emotionally first, then physically. She says it's not just about losing a partner, it's about watching her children lose a father figure, one by one. The judge asks them both the hardest question of all: what do you really want? Streety says the truth. Johnson whispers peace. Both mean the same thing, closure. When the DNA results arrive, the courtroom braces again. The memory of the last case lingers in everyone's mind. Two men proven not to be fathers. The room feels like it's holding its breath. The judge reads slowly, deliberately. In the case of Streety versus Johnson, when it comes to 13-month-old DeAndre Streety, there's a pause. Every heartbeat in the room sinks in anticipation. It has been determined by this court, Mr. Streety, you are the father. Miss Johnson gasps, relief flooding her eyes. Streety closes his, caught between shock and humility. For weeks, maybe months, he had lived in doubt. Now the truth stands before him, undeniable. The child he once questioned is, in fact, his own flesh and blood. The courtroom, for the first time that day, feels lighter, not with joy but with resolution. When the results echo through the courtroom, time itself seems to hesitate. Mr. Streety, you are the father. The words hang in the air, neither punishment nor reward, but truth in its purest, most undeniable form. For a heartbeat, nobody moves. Then the emotion begins to surface, quietly at first, then in waves. Miss Johnson presses a trembling hand over her mouth, tears spilling down as if years of tension have suddenly found an exit. Relief, vindication, and pain mix together in a way only truth can create. For the first time, her heart feels seen. The world had doubted her, the man she loved had questioned her, but now reality has answered for her. Across from her, Mr. Streety sits motionless, stunned. It isn't the kind of shock that comes from surprise, it's the shock of awakening. For months, he'd built walls around his doubt, convincing himself that disbelief was safer than trust. Now those walls crumble, leaving him exposed before the woman he once promised forever to, and the child whose innocence mirrors both of their mistakes. He takes a slow breath, the weight of fatherhood returning to his chest, not as burden but as clarity. The boy he once looked at with suspicion now feels like a part of him, irreplaceable. The features he once questioned, the skin tone, the shape of the eyes, suddenly look different, familiar, his own. The judge watches them both with quiet empathy and begins to speak, her voice steady and human. Sometimes truth doesn't destroy, it restores. The problem isn't always deception, it's the fear of facing what's real. Her words pierce through the courtroom like light breaking through fog. Streety nods slowly. For all his anger and doubt, what remains now is humility. He realizes the truth doesn't just prove paternity, it reveals character. Because being a father was never about being right, it was about being responsible. And he has been. Despite his uncertainty, he never truly left. He stayed close enough to question, but never far enough to abandon. Miss Johnson wipes her tears, her shoulders trembling with exhaustion. She isn't celebrating, she's simply breathing again. For months she's lived beneath the shadow of suspicion, forced to defend her honor, her child, her truth. Now, for once, she doesn't have to speak. Science has spoken for her. Yet even victory tastes bittersweet. Because love can't be restored by proof alone. It must be rebuilt, one honest word at a time. The judge turns to Mr. Streety again, reminding him that being a father comes with both privilege and duty. "You can't step up halfway," she says softly. "You chose to be a father long before this result. Now you must live as one, with consistency, with patience, and with trust." Her advice feels almost like prophecy. Streety nods, realizing that fatherhood isn't a sentence, it's a sacred choice, renewed daily. He glances toward Miss Johnson. For the first time in months, their eyes meet without accusation. There's no shouting, no sarcasm, just the silent acknowledgement of shared pain and shared purpose. He whispers almost inaudibly, "We'll figure it out." She nods.